Welcome to Red Deer Public Library's Travel Memories program for March 2022. My name's Priscilla, and I'm part of the programming staff here at Red Deer Public Library. And it's my privilege to start with a land acknowledgement. In the spirit of reconciliation, I acknowledge that I live, work, and play on the Treaty 6 and Treaty 7 territories, and of the Métis of Region 3, traditional and customary lands of First Nations and Métis peoples. And I now would like to welcome Leah Hennel, our speaker today. How are you doing today, Leah?
I'm doing great, thanks.
I just want to introduce Leah a little bit to you in case you don't know too much about her. She's a native Calgarian, an award-winning freelance photojournalist, a graduate of SAIT, and she's worked for more than 20 years for daily newspapers in Calgary and traveled the globe pursuing her wonderful vocation. And now she's a freelance photographer, so she's going to tell us, I think, a little later about how frenetic a life she's actually living now. And what I've appreciated from discovering her book was how much she likes recording rural life, which I think often isn't captured these days. She's also covered 2 Paralympic Winter Games, Sochi and Rio, and the Pyeongchang 2018 Winter Games for Postmedia, and Tokyo 2020 for the Canadian Olympic Committee. And she's just back from Beijing. So when we set up this program, she told me she was going to be out of the country for a while, but she didn't mention where she was going. And it wasn't until I checked her Instagram and saw all these fabulous photographs from the Beijing Olympics that I realized that she really was out of the country. How did that happen, Leah?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
She just hides her light under a bushel, as they say. Anyway, her most recent book, or the one I know about, is this one, Along the Western Front. And I discovered it when I was looking at an ebook service that we have online called Read Alberta eBooks on Kantuk Station. And I came across this incredible book. And I thought, well, you know, she might be interested in talking to us. So I sent off an email and Leah said, sure, I'd love to talk to you about my book. So that's how this all happened.
So yeah, like I said, I'm a freelance photojournalist. I've been doing this for a long time. It's my passion. It's probably the only thing I think I can picture myself doing. Lately, so I was full-time with the Calgary Herald-Sun for quite a number of years. In 2019, I quit to go freelance full-time. And I'm also a staff documentary photographer with Alberta Health Services. So some of the photos you might see in media taken in the hospitals were taken by me or my colleagues. But yeah, I'm just going to show you some of these Western photos and if there's any questions. Like I said, this is Cade McDonald, and this was at the Calgary Stampede, I believe in 2017. I love portraits. I love photographing people. I'm just naturally curious about people. And so this was Cade right after he was competing in the steer riding. And it was a rainy day, like some days are at the Stampede in July. And I just thought where the mud had landed on his face and the color of his eyes, I couldn't resist. And I think I literally got like maybe 5 frames off of this. It was really quick, but everything just worked out. And yeah. This is a bull rider, JB Mooney. This is the same day I had photographed Cade. Again, I just saw him standing out back after competing, and I had approached him and just said who I was and had asked if I could take his portrait. Going back to the other 2 ones, I do photograph a lot I like black and white. It's just my personal preference. I feel like you actually spend more time looking at the composition of the photo. But everything I do photograph is in color and I convert in black and white after. This is JB Mooney again. This is in the dressing room after he competed and was injured. So I spend a lot of my time kind of hanging around the fringes of the rodeos, like behind the scenes. I really like to show people places that maybe if you've just been a spectator at some of these events, you've never been back behind the chutes or back in the dressing rooms or behind the scenes. So that's kind of where my photography kind of lies. These are all out of order, so I apologize. Like we were saying, I just got back from Beijing, so yeah, just trying to acclimatize back to normal time. So this is, I do a lot of work with photograph a lot of the Hutterite colonies in southern Alberta. And this was at Pincher Creek, and it was a few years ago for the eclipse, and I knew the eclipse was coming, so I had gone down to Pincher Creek to photograph these young girls looking at the eclipse with some welding masks. And this again is just Pincher Creek Hutterite colony. I've gotten access to some of these colonies. A lot of times I just go down and I don't take photos and I spend some time with them. There's different, some are I might be pronouncing this wrong, Darius-lite, Lariolite. So some of the communities are more strict in terms of taking photos. And this is down near Pincher Creek, near a ranch that I go to quite a bit. And if you could see the World War II veteran in the window there. So this is just a little bit of different framing. And this is at Spring Point Colony, sheep shearing, which should be happening any day, any week, any day this week or next week, depending on the weather, shearing the sheep. Again, this is at the Hutterite Colony, just some nice light, a portrait. I spend a lot of time when I go out to the ranches and all that stuff. You know, these people, everyone has become, I've become really close to them and friends. So I try and get out there as much as I can every year in the summer. This is Dana Hare, used to be Dana Jenkins, and her little girl, Riada. And I just love the old truck, the old farm truck. And it reminded me of, I grew up in Calgary, but I spent a lot of summers up at the family farm near Stettler. And this just reminded me of, you know, my uncle's old farm truck. If I'm going too fast on the photos, let me know. This is Dana again and her little girl Riada, and I just liked how Dana's getting ready to go out and work on the ranch, but she's also full-time mom, and so she's got a little one there. Lately, I've focused my lens or my photos towards women, working women on the ranches. This is Colby Hare. This is Dana's husband. I've been documenting Dana since she was, oh, I want to say 12, about 12. And now she has 3 kids now. So this is when she had her first one, Riada. I do a lot of available light as well. This is just in the barn. I just opened the barn doors and photograph that nice available soft light. This one too, I'm always trying to look at the environment. Southern Alberta, I go there a lot. It's one of my favorite places. Colby's just riding the range, checking the cattle. So I lucked out with we have so many Chinooks here, so the Chinook clouds and the way the hills and the clouds kind of work together. The annual branding of the cattle. I focus a lot on, in my photography too, on the details on the cowboy boots, but just the small, you know, cowboy traditions, I guess, with the spurs, and try to incorporate it in everything. It's funny when I'm looking through these photos, I just remember the sounds and the smell, exactly what that moment was like on that hot day. There's a, going through my, looking at the photos too, and when I'm teaching photography, I do teach that I spend a lot of time where I'm either laying down or bending down and photographing at different angles. Just, it really adds to the photos. And just the details that the ranchers have and the cowboys, like the leather work that's done on there is just stuff like that just fascinates me. Sorry, I should say on the tapaderos there. I think I focus a lot on the rural photos and stuff because when I grew up, I thought I'd be a rancher or I wanted to be. And now I just get to live vicariously through all the ranchers in Alberta. Small town rodeos. This is the Nanton Night Rodeo that they have, I think, starting in June. But I always go on the Friday night because it's when you get the best light because the rodeo starts around 6 or 7. And in those, you know, the summer nights, the light just gets better and better and better. And this one, there was a storm that came in and I was on the back of the chute and I just got lucky when the clouds cleared and the rainbow came out. This is at the Stampede, one of the outriders. She's one of the first female outriders. She's not the first, but on the circuit now, one of the youngest and only women outriders. So once I found out about her, I did a story on her for the newspaper. And yeah, this is just in the barns at the Stampede there. Again, I travel really light. I usually have my 2 camera bodies, 2 lenses, a 35 and maybe 85. And no, this is all just available light. And this is at Siksika. This one I took this year or last year. It was a portrait during a memorial for the 2015 children from in Kamloops. Sorry, I'm jumping around again. So this is from 2005. And I think this was shot on film, actually. I started my career shooting film and now everything is digital. And this was from the Stampede, the Calgary Stampede horse drive in, 2015. Was it 2015 or 2000? Oh my goodness, sorry, this was from 2000. There was a horse drive in 2005. Yeah, now I'm getting my dates mixed up. This is a really old photo taken on film and then it was scanned digitally and the digital scanner wasn't that great. But in the middle there on the horse is actually Dana Jenkins, now Dana Hare, that I photographed since she was little. That's her mom in the foreground. This is the McLean's ranch. Again, just different angles. I think I parked my car behind me. So when they're on the cattle drive, I was just laying underneath my vehicle to get this low angle when the riders and the cattle went by. And this was that same Calgary Stampede horse drive, 2005. I drive around Alberta a lot, just around southern Alberta. This is down near Lomond, and this rancher had put these horse skulls just along the fence post. So I took a photo of that. Again, just out on one of my drives, got out of my car and hiked around and came across this. just those Alberta prairie skies, wide open prairies really appeal to me. And of course we get the amazing thunderclouds that come in. This was the Calgary Stampede horse drive of 2000. This was shot on film, and this is when they brought them across the Red Deer River down by Dorothy. This was the same in Dorothy, where we camped out while the horses were being brought from the Calgary Stampede Ranch out near Hanna, Alberta, and they had a horse drive and brought the horses in to the Stampede. So I followed along with them. This is from that same set of pictures. I just put this in there. This is my son back when he was 5. This is in Botha, Alberta. And yeah, he would come with me sometimes too on some of my photos, shoots. And this is up at the Hennel, my family, the Hennel farm up near Stettler. So this is one of the brandings. I never really helped out except I took photos. So I don't know if that if that was good or bad. These are just some portraits of some of the local ranchers and some of the people that out near, I think these were out near Nanton. This is Roy McLean, who passed away a few years ago. Clay Chataway, I go out to their ranch quite a bit. Tom Views. This one, actually, the light, like I said, I usually use available light. It was a big rainstorm that came in out near Longview, and I was sent out to do this portrait. And so the stopped raining for maybe 5 minutes, and the light on the horse there is coming from my car headlights. And I think there's a barn light or something that's hitting the bottom of the tree on the left. So I just kind of lucked out on that one. This is at the Writing on Stone Rodeo that happens usually every August long weekend. And again, the Friday night is the best light, but small town rodeos are my favorite to photograph because you can go anywhere. So this one I'm laying down on my stomach. There's a tiny little fence in front of me where the horse obviously is going to stop, but you get so close that, yeah, I mean, you could see the mud and the rocks flying. And this one I actually did break my lens. I think actually I had a filter on my lens. So that one, I broke that one. But I just love small town rodeos because you can get really close to the action. And this is one of the neighbors of my uncle up on our family farm. And this is, again, just barn light. Branding, again, this is at the Bar S Ranch. Again, I try to look for the details. I'm usually always, I don't photograph with a lot of telephoto lenses. I'm usually pretty close to the action. I think because I've photographed branding and stuff like this for a lot that hopefully maybe if you ask someone else to be different, but that I'm not in the way. I know when to move and get out of the way. Because I am a photojournalist, I'm trying to tell a story in a photo or a series of photos that really show what it's like, truthful storytelling. The black and white, again, I like it, especially for this, because I could picture 100 years ago, you know, especially for my family on their farm, that it looked the same, and most of the traditions haven't really changed. Everything on these ranches is still done on horseback. They don't use a lot of ATVs to get out and check the cattle. It's still done on horseback. Canola fields, always fun to photograph. Couldn't resist photographing him because of his mustache and the cigar. Oh, just some of the stuff I see in the prairies, the leopard frog. Again, the little details, right, with the baby powder that's on the back of the saddle. This is from a rodeo. This is the Red Deer River. It was kind of a funny story. I was with my family, my husband and my son. We're driving to my family's cabin, which is out at Buffalo Lake, and we're going across Mackenzie Crossing, across the bridge there, and looked over and I saw these women in the water, and I was like, I right away immediately pulled down into the riverbank there and had asked if I could photograph them. They were picking berries along the river, so they were just cooling off. But I should also say too, I always ask permission to take photos as well. These last few series of photos were from the Bar S Ranch, just checking the cattle. I think it was like in the fall, in October. Just really looking for the light. I'm just going through these photos of, and this is Lenore McLean. I met Lenore in, oh geez, it must have been in 2000. I was doing a photo of her, maybe it was 2005, a long time ago, and I was doing a photo of her for the Calgary Herald. She was one of the 3 Alberta beef women that they had in the posters, and we hit it off, and I've been really good friends with Lenore for a long time now. I think she just turned 8, she's 82, I believe. So I go out and photograph her a lot. The history and knowledge that she has, she's abused, and the history and knowledge she has from her family. She's Tom Buse's sister, is amazing. So yeah, with the local ranching history and stuff, Lenore is a wealth of information. She taught side saddle. She has Florence Ledoux's side saddle because she grew up neighbors with Florence Ledoux. Again, back to the branding. I just love this one, how she puts the knife in her mouth in between. I'm not a good storyteller. I just take photos, but sometimes I think if this cowboy boot could talk, I mean, the stories that it would say. Lots of the ranch kids. Again, just I photograph a lot of just stuff on the prairies that I find, abandoned buildings. Northern Lights. This is at a powwow at Siksika. And these photos were for a story I did for the Calgary Herald. This building, this is in, oh my goodness, sorry, Orion, Alberta. This, his building, it burnt down maybe a few years ago. This is Lenore McLean again on her ranch. Lenore again, this is in their home, and this is her husband, Roy McLean, who passed away, like I said, a few years ago. So this was probably, I think I took this photo 3 years ago. This is their grandson. And those woolly chaps he's wearing were Roy's actually when he was young. This is from a story I did on a convent in Mondare, and it is where nuns who retire go to live. And this was Sister Aloysius. She was 104 when I took this photo. She's since passed away. But I was just interested in what happened to nuns when they retire. They get older. And so I found this convent, and I actually spent some time there documenting the sisters. Southern Alberta, just a landscape one. This is branding on the Pincher Creek Hutterite colony. Again, I spend lots of time not taking photos when I go to the colonies, and so we become friends, and they've invited me out. I think it's been a few years now to some of their brandings. I haven't gone during COVID. So this was probably, this might have been 2019 or 2017. But again, I'm focusing on women in ranching, and the women all help out. Again, lots of the low angles. The thing I really like about some of the rural communities I've photographed is that everyone comes in and helps out at branding time. It's the neighbors, friends, different communities, the Hutterite colonies, the indigenous communities, and everyone comes and helps out during branding. It's been different a little bit because of COVID, but and the Hutterite women, I thought, you know, they've got their jeans underneath their skirts so they can help and ride horses. And again, this community, some of them obviously have cell phones, which some don't, some do. So some are more open to having their photos taken. I think that's, oh, no, there's more, sorry. This is all from that same day. I should have talked about this, but I'm sure everyone, or maybe everyone knows the prairie oysters. So these are the girls that they're cleaning them and cooking them up. They're going to batter them and fry them and eat them. I've only eaten one ever. I'm not a fan. But there is a lot of ranchers and who everyone has a different recipe for how they cook them. Again, just like focusing on the women. I really liked how they were wearing jeans underneath their dresses, and just the sky. Alberta skies are amazing. a little bit of drone photography. So this was just flying over the branding pins. This was a story I did for the Herald on Indigenous relay racing, and this was out at Pagani. And there was, again, a storm that came in and it just cleared quickly. So I didn't get a chance to get them practicing on the track because there was lightning. And so this was just a few quick photos I was able to get at the end. Just different angles and detail in the dressing room at a rodeo, cowboy dressing room. I like those little in-between moments. Like I said, again, this is before the cowboy competes and he's just saying a prayer before he goes out. So just like behind the scenes. I'm just looking for those little moments. Portraits again. This, if people are wondering how, like I said, I usually use available light, but this one is lit with, I just have a little folding reflector, really tiny. So I just pop some light back into her face. This is after a day of branding, just hanging out before the meal. These are some more photos from the Nanton Night Rodeo. This was the first year they had side saddle racing at the Calgary Stampede. This is Lenore McLean's granddaughter, Kate. And again, just in the barn, so just portraits, super simple portraits, but it allows me time to get to know subjects. And sometimes I get invited to the ranch after, spending some time getting to meet people and know them. This is at the Writing on Stone Milk River Rodeo, and this is Bailey. She was 15 there and competing in steer riding, wanted to be a bull rider. I don't think she's continued with that now, but again, I'm always looking for those stories where there's women in rodeo or ranching, trying to focus my lens more on that. Writing on Stone. If you ever have a chance to go to that rodeo, it is one of the best. It looks like right of a Western movie. It's amazing. I try to go back every year. Since COVID, they haven't had it, so I'm hoping that this year it'll be back. Writing on Stone, you can see the Sweetgrass Hills in Montana there. The light is just amazing. And it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. These are all from the rodeo. This is Jenny Donahue. Was doing a story on her, just part of my Women in Ranching series. I feel like women are kind of like, the first, not the first, but, they're working moms, they're working on the ranch, they have their kids beside them or holding them in the saddle. So this is back at Spring Point Colony. And this was just during sheep shearing. I focus a lot on kids. they're always good to photograph because they really just ignore you. Sheep shearing again, Spring Point. I love this photo because it just reminds me of when I was little and you just lay down and look up at the clouds. And this was from Roy McLean's funeral. So Lenore's husband that I had spoken about. This is his horse and his cowboy boots, and it's tradition in Western funerals where they put their cowboy boots backwards in the saddle, in the stirrup, sorry. Sorry, there's a double one there. This is Clay Chataway. I go to Clay's ranch and his family's ranch, the Bar S, quite a bit. I keep coming back almost every year at branding. It's like it's a reunion of sorts for me to see all the ranchers I photographed over the years. This is Clay's son, Scott. Writing on stone again. Milk River. I think most of these photos are in the book. Some are newer. Just the end of the day after a long day of rodeo in Milk River. We were talking a lot about, or this was for travel. So I have traveled a lot in the world, but this is just, these ones are stories I've done in Alberta. And this is from, this is a family during Eid celebrations here in Calgary. I just included some of these where I guess my point was you don't really we have so many different cultures here in Alberta that it's almost like you're traveling somewhere else. This is a story I did on a different story on Indigenous relay racing with the Pretty Young Men team from Siksika. This was this summer actually. That's all I have for that. Was there any questions on that part first?
Well, yes. So first of all, hi from Dalith McKendrick. Does that ring a bell?
No.
Okay.
I'm bad with names.
That's okay. One question, what does the title mean, Along the Western Front?
That is a good question, actually. So the publisher picked that title. It was their play on "Oh, Quiet on the Western Front," kind of. But along the Western Front, I think it just means that just photos I've taken along the Western Front in southern Alberta.
So I'm glad that you have so many pictures of women because it is Women's History Month, so that good homage there. Have you always been interested, or that just sort of evolved?
No, I've always been interested in women in careers and jobs. I think because when I started as a photojournalist in my career, where I was, there wasn't a lot of women doing what I was doing, and there's more now, and it's getting better, but there still isn't. It's still very, very male dominant career. So I think I've just always gravitated towards doing stories on women because of that.
And so equipment-wise, I think you talked about that. You did answer those questions. You natural light and
yeah, like so I go, yeah, super natural light. I try to keep it super simple. Yeah, mostly because I just, after covering, like when I cover sports, I have to carry all the big lenses and lots of equipment that when I'm doing more of my documentary work, I go, yeah, I keep it really light.
And in your book, you mentioned about Mike Drew from the Calgary Sun and his on the road columns and how he inspired you.
Yes. So Mike Drew he was my mentor. I met him when I was still in high school and then started working in a work experience thing at the Calgary Sun. And he is a wealth of information on Southern Alberta, and introduced me to some of the ranchers. And that's how sometimes I got my connection. But yeah, his photos in his on the road column are amazing.
And he's still doing it, right?
Yeah, still doing it. And he has a book too of some of his columns, but his column runs every Sunday in the Herald, but it's also online. And he's gotten more into doing the video side of it as well.
So the gear details in your photos, someone remarked on that is very special. And you don't have to have a special lens. You just
No, like some of them I'm just trying to look. I mean, I have taken some with my iPhone as well. I think we were talking before, it's just whatever you have with you. But no, my favorite lens to use right now, it changes. But I really like the 35, just the fixed lens. But yeah, usually I'm using like a 16 to 35 range. Yeah, I started my career, like I was saying, shooting film and developing film, and now it's digital, and now I'm shooting with the digital mirrorless cameras. So with those, there's the ability to shoot silent. There's no sound of the shutter, which really helps in the stuff that I do, to be less obtrusive. People kind of forget I'm there, or at least that's what I hope that they do.
That's a big development. And favorite location? I think it's just you like the Alberta sky, it seems like. I don't know.
Yeah, I like the Alberta sky, and just I love going to the ranches. I love, the rural life. I love just getting to know the history, with all the different communities that are in Alberta, in southern Alberta.
Are there any risks with this career choice? Like,
Risk.
yeah.
I don't know. I guess if there's always a risk with traveling. No, not so far.
Well, that's good. So have you noticed any influence over people's attitude to this culture because of TV shows like Heartland and Yellowstone and
Yeah, I think from Yellowstone, there's definitely maybe more. But I don't know if it's actually changed. I mean, most of the people that I photograph and where I go, they're living it daily. So for them, it's normal. Maybe for people who live in the city and aren't exposed to like where their food comes from and all that stuff, maybe it's different or it's changed because of those shows.
so you clearly have photos and stories, but do you collect any other souvenirs from all these places? Like,
Great question,
do you
actually.
collect gear or anything? Okay, actually, the one question I really want to ask is, do you ride?
No, I should have said
Okay.
that. I am a terrible rider. I'm actually very allergic to horses.
Oh,
Um,
you're
in
allergic to
fact,
them.
yeah. So I guess the risk for doing this work is that I take allergy medication is in my camera bag.
Okay, that is a
No, I'm a
risk.
terrible, terrible rider. And if I had to ride and take photos, which I have done, it's not good. Like if they put me on a horse, it has to be the oldest, slowest horse.
Have you got any other books in the offing?
I do actually. I have, like I said in the beginning, that I was documenting COVID in the hospitals for AHS, and also COVID outside. As a photojournalist, it was, a time of history that needs to be remembered and documented. So I do have a book that comes out this month.
Oh,
Um, it's just called Alone Together, a pandemic photo story. And it's just photos that I have documented of just, everyday life during the pandemic, drive through religious ceremonies, drive through movies, stories of patients and doctors and nurses, photos, mostly photos, but that is by the same publisher and comes out this month. And all the money goes back to the foundations.
Oh, okay. Well, that's great. Good to know. So you had mentioned that you had some Olympic photos you
Yes.
wouldn't mind sharing with us.
Yeah. Okay. So I've covered Olympics before, Paralympics and Olympics before the pandemic. So Tokyo is the Summer Olympics 2020, which were held in summer of 2021 because they were postponed for a year due to the pandemic. So covering Olympics during a pandemic is very different. And so these photos I'm going to show you are just the one day that I had to go, I guess, into downtown Tokyo and just try and get some photos of, the local areas, but they were all taken through a car window. Just because it's a pandemic. And I was photographing for the Canadian Olympic Committee, we were obviously staying away from people for their safety as so much as ours. So these are just street scenes in Tokyo, ones that I could capture again through a window.
That's a fan? Oh, those are fans. Okay.
Yeah.
It was hot.
Yes, it was the hottest, humid, hot. It was so uncomfortable. I did not think it was going to be that hot in the humidity. So hot. I like a good 20 degrees.
Okay.
But yeah, it was hot. So this is just, there wasn't very many, again, because it was a pandemic during the Olympics. And I don't think, a lot of the locals didn't want the Olympics there because obviously during, the height of the pandemic, everyone was very worried, right?
Mhm.
Even with traveling. So.
And they didn't have
Their
vaccines.
their vaccine uptake then wasn't like ours. And for those of us that were on the committee, we had to have both our vaccines to be on the team and to go over.
And you stayed in separate quarters just with the media, like not with the athletes,
Yeah,
you were saying?
yeah. So we stay away from the athletes, which is normal in any, like during the Olympics anyway. We would stay in like media hotels. We wouldn't stay in the athlete village.
And then you were assigned to specific events?
Yeah, so there was a team of 5 of us, so I would be assigned to specific events. This is Simone Biles, gymnastics. When I'm photographing the Olympics too, I try to look for, this is a pandemic Olympics, so to me, I thought it was interesting to frame her with the judges behind her wearing masks. But to also show this is the Olympics, so you try to frame it so you get the signage saying that it's an Olympics, or it could be gymnastics, a world gymnastics event anywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm there to shoot the Canadian athletes for the Canadian Olympic team, but then we also can photograph other athletes. And obviously Simone Biles was a big story. So she was there. And yeah, this was after, I think it was right before the next day she announced that she wasn't going to compete in one of the events. So again, just looking for emotion is a big thing. This one, again, I'm just trying to show, like, again, it's a pandemic Olympics. So, 100 years from now, when you're looking back at the photos, everyone's wearing masks, and yeah. Marathon, again, when I was talking about photographing the emotions, this is the winner. Just like human emotions, even the people who aren't the winners, who still, they made it to the Olympics. Obviously these guys are getting, it's the triathlon, sorry.
Okay.
The empty stands, right? I think there's one person who might, I don't like, is sitting up there, but just no no fans, no families at these Olympics.
That's even fewer than in Beijing, I think, eh?
Yeah, Beijing had more people coming. This was again part of like documenting women. This is Haley Daniels, and this was the first time that women could compete in the canoe kayak. Men have been in it, but this is the first year that women were allowed to compete. So that was like a big story. And I've followed Haley's career here, so just followed her there. The heat, like I said, even how the athletes dealt with it, it was unbelievably hot. They moved the soccer game later into the evening just to try and cope with the heat. But you know, track and field, I mean, the just unbelievable heat that the athletes had to compete in. And that, I mean, we were working and we were just every day you're just drenched in sweat and you're wearing a mask all the time. Our Canadian rowers, just trying to, yeah, just to try to really show the emotion. Slow shutter speeds. This is that trampoline. This is when she's competing and her goggles fell down, but you can't stop because you're, you know, so still going. Diving. The fans that you see there are mostly like teammates or coaches that are sitting up there.
So is that underwater?
This one?
Yeah.
No, it's like when she's diving, so it's like her hair was already wet, so it's yeah.
Wow.
Slow shutter speed, just diving again. That was one of the amazing stories that this is at track and field, and this is when the two athletes shared their gold medal in was it high jump? I'm pretty sure it was high jump. But just the emotion of the winners. This is I included this in just to show you. That's the photo pit down on the right. So all the photographers.
So that's where you would be normally?
Yeah. So like one of us was there. I was up a little higher. But yeah,
how did you get up there?
There's photo positions everywhere. So yeah, we call them the pool photographers, and they would be like right on the track where that camera guy is. So they get really close, and those are the agencies, the bigger agencies that go there. But this is, yeah, from that level in the pit that I showed you. So this is the level, the view you would get, you're down low. It looks like there's people in the stands because of the colors of those seats, but there was nobody there. So these are the summer ones. Andre DeGrasse. Again, you can see that I like black and white, shooting black and white. This is just some of the moments of him winning. That was for the 200 meter, the women's soccer team. Their gold medal.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is Beijing. This is my colleague. And every morning, this is what we would have to do is go get our COVID swab every morning. And this was in the parking lot of the hotel we were staying at. So every morning you go in, get the swab, and then go off to work. That's me shooting. I was just to show how cold it is.
So you went from the heat of Japan to the so cold in Beijing.
Yeah, it was so cold. Speed skating. I just like capturing those moments that you might not see when, you know, you're just taking a break. And again, showing that it's a pandemic Olympics. So, you know, the nursing staff sitting there in all their PPE with the speed skaters going by. I'm just trying to document stuff. It's so historic that hopefully in our lifetime, we'll never see it again. But yeah, speed skating.
And that was the only new building they really built, I think, wasn't it?
I think so. And it's gorgeous. It's a great facility. The hockey. This is a new facility too, I think, the bobsled and luge. So again, just trying to show the environment too, that when I was photographing sports,
So
it's
no
an
snow
amazing.
there. No
No, they
snow.
had to make the snow, yeah, for the Alpine event and all that stuff. So, but it is cold. I know it doesn't look cold because there's no snow, but it is freezing. But it's a beautiful, this bobsled luge track is amazing. It's beautiful. These are Canadians. The people and the food, amazing.
It was. The food was good.
It was, yes. I think I gained weight while I was working,
Despite the cold.
despite the cold. Yeah. Eileen Gu, super famous when she won Big Air. Also, some of the acts, the falls and stuff. To get these photos, like the half pipe, we'd have to put on crampons on our boots, and I mean like the really big, like this, like long spikes just to hike up to our photo position. With all our gear, it physically, it was probably one of the most physical Olympics I had to cover in terms of like the physical work for me to get to a photo position.
And then you had to stand there in the cold and the wind and
Yeah.
everything. For,
Yeah, and you're standing, you can see the photographers on the other side there. You know, you're standing, you're not even standing, you're standing on the, like you're leaning one side for
it's so
for like 8 hours. Like, yeah, so it was physically exhausting for sure.
Oh, that's you too?
And we wore masks. No, different person.
Okay.
But yeah, we
Who
have
would
our,
know?
yeah, right? But we have we're wearing these are KN95 masks, and we're wearing, which actually were great because they were really warm. So they were but we're wearing them outside. Again, the volunteers had to wear these suits all the time, inside and outside. Yeah, and these two fellows are at we get on these buses and they just spray the inside and the outside of the bus down constantly. Yeah, this is
Wow.
snowboard cross, some of the, yeah.
Well, that didn't go so well.
No. And that's the thing with sports, it's like, yeah, the jubilation, and then this is our Canadian guy who got second. And this
all over and so quickly too, right? You have to be really on the ball to get the pictures, I imagine.
Oh yes, your head has to be on a swivel, and yeah, I'm always looking for those different moments. This is the view from my hotel room, and the bottom left corner is where we go to get our COVID swab every morning. So it's just, the staff have to sit in that little
house there.
Oh, okay. That little house, and yeah, give us our COVID swabs.
And wouldn't they get them mixed up? There's so many of them.
No, well, we have a press pass or an ID pass, and the athletes have one in everyone. And so there's a barcode on there, and they scan that barcode, and then they put it onto the vial or whatever it is. Yeah. Biathlon. I love photographing biathlon. Again, I love the finish line. Just exhausting. Yeah, for the athletes. This is in the restaurant. One of the staff members there.
So is that's your server would be dressed like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, really?
So, and this was a buffet style. So you would go up and get your own food and then sit down at these tables that have the plastic dividers. So, my colleague and I would sit opposite ends and have the dividers through it. Giving a sign, they were great, and I just can't imagine how hot it would have been inside to wear these. So you can kind of see this, they're in there cleaning after someone leaves. There's that's the hand sanitizer that's on the table. Snowing. These are our Canadians who got silver snowboard cross.
And that was the first time, wasn't it, for mixed?
For mixed doubles, yeah. Yeah, and this is again more biathlon. Sorry, cross country skiing. Yeah. These are Canadian girls. They did really well. I know it doesn't look like it from the photo, but it's just, you know, exhausting. This is the relay, the cross country relay team.
They gave it their all.
Yeah, I think they came in 9th place, which I think it was 9th, which was I think it's the highest they've done. Biathlon again.
Oh, and the tape on their faces, that was for the cold
For the
too,
cold.
wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it was so cold. This was like a snowstorm came in, it's freezing. Yeah, I don't know how the athletes did it. And even just for us, like we're bundled up but we're just standing in one spot and it's freezing. I don't know how they did it.
So did you have like a headset that was telling you what was happening? I mean, we
No, that
watching
would be
TV.
amazing. No.
Okay.
No, so like and it's hard like when they go by and like I'm there to get the Canadians, but it's hard to tell when they go by this fast, or it's hard to know. I don't know what the athlete looks like, so I'm just looking for that. You know, the maple leaf is so small on their shoulder. I know it says Canada on the tooth, but when they're in a crowd, you don't have much time to pick them out. So
Never
if you
mind
have more than
focus,
one
yeah.
lap, yeah,
Yeah,
but you do, then it's good. But you want to get to different locations.
oh, right.
So it's
Stay in one
hard.
spot.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That just looks
Was
like I
that a
fell in
special
this thing.
filter?
No, this is just so my f-stop, it's like at f22, so that's why that gets that starburst effect on the sun. And then this is just snow. I put my camera down, and when I picked it up there was snow on the lens, like that, so I just kept it there and just shot through the snow on my lens. So
Oh, so cool.
but again, like I look at these photos and getting to this location, I mean, there's another hill you could see up to the right. You have to hike up there, and I already hiked up too. So sometimes like you would just get to a spot and you're like, I'm just going to make this location work, because you're just exhausted after you do it over and over again over so many days. And yeah. This is aerials. I think it's one of my favorite sports to photograph. So I'm standing with a bunch of other photographers, but we're right underneath the jump. Yeah, so they're just right overhead of us.
And the night, you know, when they have the night competitions,
It's
that
beautiful
lighting
because
is,
it's like this is the lighting at night, and they're so lit for us, like it's amazing. Yeah.
it's
But yeah,
almost
it's like
easier to see than in the daytime when it's bright blue sky almost, the dark.
exactly, yeah. And this is just a really slow shutter speed. So that's where you get the motion of the skier, but super slow shutter speed. These are the girls hockey team. They won gold.
Really? Did
Yeah,
they?
yeah. They won the girls hockey team and the soccer team. So we both, yeah. So this is them
Yeah.
just celebrating their gold medal.
Mhm.
I just love emotion, like human
Yeah.
emotion.
Oh,
Happy or
wonderful.
sad or just anything. I think it's just so storytelling.
Mhm.
But yeah, they were
Particularly
happy. But
sweet.
again, yeah, and it's just so weird that like it's just sad that the family and friends couldn't be there. But they had set up like a TV screen or a Zoom so they could Skype in or whatever it was to their family members, which I thought was pretty cool. More speed skating. Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. You've had, despite COVID, you've had an interesting couple of years.
Yeah, I think they were I'm lucky that I was still employed during COVID. I have a lot of friends and family that, you know, COVID is like awful. And lucky in that none of my family members got sick or passed away. So
I'm going to ask you to stop sharing the screen maybe, and then we can go back to. Perfect. Thank you. Well, this has been wonderful. I'm so glad we made it work.
yes, thank you. And sorry, I'm not verbose in talking about my photos.
I think you said enough that you conveyed the emotion that's involved in taking all your pictures. It's wonderful. And it really makes us, I think, helps us appreciate a way of life that we sometimes take for granted here in Alberta, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So it's wonderful. And maybe we'll have to have you back when your other book is out and talk about that.
Definitely.
So I just wanted to mention next time, well, Lauren Fonda will be joining us, and she spent some time in Indonesia, and she'll be talking specifically about cruising on the Mahakam River in eastern Borneo. So if you've heard of the Wild Man of Borneo, I think based on the original headhunters there in eastern Borneo, that's what she's going to talk about next time, April 6th. So
That sounds
thank
amazing.
you again, Leah, and good luck with all your adventures.
Yes, thanks for having me.
And your time management. I'm in awe of all that you managed to do.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
It's great.